Alright guys, so now that you've seen how object-oriented programming works in ES5 syntax, let's take a look at ES6 classes. Now we've been using certain features of ES6 throughout this course. We've used let and const, template strings, and some other things. There will be a section in this course dedicated to features of ES6 Plus. Now, as I showed you at the beginning of the course, almost all of ES6 is compatible with all modern browsers. If you do want support for IE11 and earlier, then you need to compile your ES6 down to ES5. And I'm going to show you how to do that in a later section. But classes are fully compliant in Chrome, Firefox, Edge, Safari, all the modern browsers, so we're not going to need to compile anything to use. So let's go ahead and minimize this, and we're going to go to our app.js file, and we're going to create a class. Now, if you have any experience at all with other object-oriented programming languages like Java, C#, even PHP, languages like that, and you've used classes before, this is going to be very, very easy for you. It's basically the same thing. We create a class, a constructor, and we have methods and properties inside of our class. So let's call this person. I'm going to open up some curly braces, and then we're going to create a constructor. So we just write the word constructor as a function, and then that's going to take in any properties that we want to set. So let's say first name and last name, and then we'll just set this dot first name. So we can use this anywhere within the class. Set that to the first name that's being passed in. Set this dot last name to the last name that's being passed in. Alright, and just with this we can create an object. So let's say const Mary equals, we'll say new person. Notice it's the same exact syntax, so it's new person, and we'll pass in a first name and a last name. Alright, so let's go ahead and just console.log Mary. Alright, so if we save that, we look down here, we have our first name and last name on a person object. Now, notice that even though we're using ES6 classes, we still have this proto object right here. And if we look in here, we have a constructor method. So under the hood, in the JavaScript engine, it works almost the exact same way. That's why classes are called syntactic sugar, or a convenience syntax, because it's basically just changing the way that we write them, not the way that it works in the underlying engine or in the underlying language. All right, so let me just show you. If we add a method here, let's say greeting. Okay, we don't have to do dot prototype or anything like that, just define a method or a function. And in here we'll say return. Let's put in some template literals here, and we'll just say hello there, and then we'll put the first name so we can access this dot first name, and then we'll do this dot last name, and then down here we'll go ahead and log dot greeting, and we get hello there Mary Williams. Okay, and if we look at console log Mary again and we look at proto, notice that we have our greeting method there. All right, so any method we add inside the class is actually going to get added to the prototype. Okay, we still have the object.prototype as well. So now let's go ahead and do the calculate age. Now we're going to need a date of birth. So we'll pass in here. Let's just say I don't know, say 11/13/1980, and then we're going to set this dot birthday equal to new date, and we'll pass in DOB. Okay, so now the person will have a birthday. So let's go ahead and create a calculate age. All right, so we'll create a variable called diff. Set it to the date now minus this dot birthday dot get time. Then we want to create a variable called age date. We'll set that to new date, and then pass in that diff variable. All right, then we want to return math.absolute, pass in here age date dot get UTC full year, and then we just want to take away 1970. All right, so that'll calculate the age from the birthday. So let's go down here and say console log Mary dot calculate age. Save, and we get 37. All right, and again, if we look at the Mary object here and we look in the prototype, we have calculate age. Okay, so let's add our gets married. And of course, these methods can take in parameters or arguments. So we'll say new last name, and then we're just going to set this dot last name equal to new last name. All right, and then right before we console log Mary, let's do Mary dot gets married. Okay, save that. And now if we look, last name is undefined. Oh, we didn't pass one in. So now we have Mary Thompson. All right, so that's the core basics of how classes work in ES6. Very similar to other languages. I think a bit easier. Now, one last thing I want to take a look at is static methods. Now, a static method is one that you can use without instantiating an object. Okay, when I say instantiate, this is what I mean. When we create an object from the class. So let's say you wanted to have a method that added two numbers together. So that's something that you don't need specific person properties for, anything like that. It's just kind of a standalone method. So what we could do is just add it here as a static method. And to do that, we just use the keyword static. So we'll say static add numbers, and we'll take in x and y, and then we'll just return x plus y. Okay, now in order to use this, we're not going to do Mary, actually let's see what happens if we say Mary.add numbers, and we'll say 1 and 2. So we're going to get an error here saying that Mary.add numbers is not a function, because it's not. This is a static method. It's not part of this instance. So in order to use this, what we do is we use the actual class name. So the class name is person. So we say person.add numbers, and we pass in 1 and 2 and save, and we get 3. All right, so that's an example of a static method. It's a very simple one, doesn't really make much sense, but if you're not using, this dot something in your methods, and it's just kind of a standalone function or method that you want in your class, then that's a good case for a static method. All right, so that's the basics of classes, guys. In the next video, I want to talk a little bit about inheritance and extending classes.